Temptation lies in the forbidden.
Hey, Wolfpack, it's Crimson Wolf, and welcome back to the channel. So, first off, happy Dragon Age Day. If you don't know, today is December 4th, which is unanimously declared by the fans and at this point by Red itself, known as Dragon Age Day. Just like we have N7 Day on November 7th, we also have Dragon Age Day where we celebrate Dragon Age, obviously. So, if you don't know, for Dragon Age the Veilguard, there is a patch 4 that literally just came out or coming out today, depending on when you were hearing this and everything. But just so you know what's with that patch, obviously besides some few bugs, they are actually some new content, which you now have Dragon Age 2's Hawk iconic outfit. So you can actually get Hawk's armor, his body paint, and face paint. So that is unique for right now. There's also some, quality of life updates. There's also some fix to like Canary complexion and stuff of that sort. But this is very funny because I was already going to do a video about my thoughts on Dragon Age the Veilguard, so I thought this would probably be a good day to do it. So we're actually going to get into my thoughts. So let's get into that. And okay, so heavy spoilers. If you haven't finished Dragon Age the Veilguard, or if you're watching my playthrough and haven't finished that, or however you want to think about it, but there are going to be some spoilers as to my thoughts on the Veilguard. So first off, I finished Dragon Age Veilguard about 3 weeks ago, well before Thanksgiving. As of right now, I think I only have episode 60 up on my channel. I think I still have a few more episodes to go, so just be aware of that. If you are watching that playthrough and you just kind of want to get through that, just want to make sure you're aware that, again, this is going to spoil how my playthrough went. But my overall thoughts on Dragon Age the Veilguard is I really do enjoy the game. I actually have been enjoying my playthrough of it. I've been enjoying the gameplay, the storytelling. I actually genuinely do enjoy the game. Not to say that I don't have some complaints about it, but the overall positive thing is I love, one, how the game looks. The game looks beautiful. It looks amazing. I think it performs really well right out the box. I didn't encounter any real glitches or bugs throughout my playthrough, which is amazing. I think me playing through the game like fresh and everything, which is very unique for games nowadays, which is that shouldn't be the case. But for Dragon Age, it was smooth right from the jump. I think everything about the gameplay was amazing. I think the world looked beautiful. I loved how Minrathous looked the first time you see it. I loved how Arlathan Forest looked. I love how every environment looked. I love how every character looked. I didn't really have a complaint about characters. Caveat to that is the Darkspawn, which I've kind of talked about the Darkspawn in previous videos and such, because this is their fourth iteration of the Darkspawn. We had the ones from Origins, the change in the DA2, the change in the Inquisition, and now the new one. That being said, I can retroactively change how I think about the Darkspawn because of the lore in the Veilguard, which we know that Gildanane experimented on the Darkspawn and changed them, or they had an original look before what we knew them as. So I can lore-wise explain that away, which is completely fine. I can do that. If you give me a lore reason why they change, cool. I have no problem with that. So Dragon Age Veilguard is obviously one of the few instances where I can lore-wise explain why the Darkspawn look the way they do. So I'm okay with how they look in this game because of the lore. Like, this was their original look before what we got in Origins. So that's one. That's point one to just the Veilguard on lore. I do love the companions. I think that's one of Dragon Age and BioWare's strongest points are the companions and characters that they create. They have a great way of making you care about the characters. Like, the first time being around Nev, I love Nev. Like, even when I listen to the podcast or the stories they did, I think it was a 6-part series. I love that. I love Harding. She was amazing. Varric being, how he is in the game, it's amazing to see him. I love Balara. Balara was one of my favorite characters throughout Veilguard. She was funny, she was energetic, but she had very wholesome moments and very, moments I really felt for her and everything. Like the moment, you walk in her writing her own, cereal was very amusing and very funny to me. The fact that her brother was there, I think that could have been a little better here or there. I think they could have done a little better with her brother, but I still like that story beat. I love Lucanus. Lucanus is again one of a great character. I love his dichotomy between him and Spite. I wanted to go more into that because we don't really get a resolution between him and Spite. So I kind of feel like that's up in the air, kind of like how Anders' Injustice was up in the air at one point. But again, I hope we see more of Lucanus. I hope we get to resolve his thing later on, and it's not just kind of done kind of off screen or something, like away from like the gameplay. I kind of want to see a resolution to Lucanus' story. Davrin, I love Davrin. I love the fact that it tied in the Griffins, and I want to, depending on how you play the game, you know, I really hope we see more of him. I'm trying to think right now. Emmerich, I liked Emmerich. Emmerich was a great character. He was very lively to say he was a necromancer, which I think that's kind of, I'm not gonna say cliche. I don't think that, because I think it's been played with that duality of a necromancer being very kind of lively and everything, though he's still on the older side. But I love the fact that he dealt with his fear of death. Even as a necromancer, he had a fear of death, which I think is very interesting. I thought that was cool that they brought up with him. I was like, okay, I actually like that idea. That even though he's a necromancer, he has a fear of death, and even though he wants to become a lich, I like that. I like those characters. The character that was very hard for me to get into was Tosh, and Tosh was only hard for me to get into was because of how her personality came across initially, because she seemed very how like very, I guess, more reserved now that I think about it. She was very closed off. She didn't emote, she didn't speak enough, and she was very like one-word answers. So I was like, all right, I'm not really getting a lot of Tosh. It's like, I don't know what's going on there. But the more you did her quest and everything, she literally opened up to you more, or they, I guess if I did have to use the correct pronouns from the game, they opened up to you more. And I thought that was endearing. The more like I talked to Tosh, the more, Tosh just opened up and wanted to express more and take you on more adventures, which I think was cool. So Tosh, for that, I ended up liking Tosh more and more as the game progressed. Now, I think there was a lot of controversy on Tosh because of, I guess, of the quote-unquote wokeness of it. And I said this in my gameplay, is that Dragon Age has always kind of been that. When Dragon Age Origins came out, you had the opportunity to romance any and everyone, and at some points multiple people. Like it wasn't a new thing for that. So when I saw that they included the whole non-binary thing in Veilguard, I was like, okay, that's fine. The only questions I had about was, how did y'all know the term binary? That was the only question I had about it, because I'm just like, when I think of binary as a former engineering student, was like, binary used to be used mostly for coding and everything. Like it was like, the language of robots, droids, yada yada yada, that kind of binary. But I was like, okay, I kind of had to, whatever, take that on my mind and everything. But overall, like that didn't bother me. The non-binary thing didn't bother me. So even after Tosh was like, all right, cool, don't mind. Don't care that got brought up. All right, and the fact that, okay, we have to deal with it, was like, we had to deal with Dorian and Inquisition too, about his, I think it was the relationship between him and, was it Alexis' son? I think it was Alexis' son, the the Venatori, the guy who was in Redcliffe's son, who he was trying to cure from the blight. And apparently him and Dorian had a relationship, and we kind of had to deal with Dorian and his father in that situation. But I'm like, why did this bother anybody? Why was this even like a question? Like, I'm not sure if it was, I'm not non-binary. I'm not, bi or anything of that sort. So I don't know, did it offend anybody that relates to that? I can't speak on. I think in the general sense of them bringing it up in the game, I think it's fine, because I'm like, Dragon Age has always been very open about it, and it's been in their games, or just in their world since from the first time I popped open a game in like 2009, 2011, yada yada yada. But if how BioWare approached it did offend anybody of non-binary who identify as non-binary, then that's a different subject that I can't speak on because I have no real leg in that race because I can't speak on how that may offend somebody because, like, for instance, if they approach anything about black culture, I would speak on it then. At that point I'm like, okay, I can speak on it because I am African American. I would speak on it, but because I'm not non-binary, I can't say if they approached it correctly or not, so I can't address it from that perspective. But overall, from my own gameplay of it, it didn't necessarily bother me. It didn't affect how I enjoyed the game from that point on. I was just like, okay, it's there, I'm cool with it. And funny enough, I like Tosh the more I brought her. The more I played with Tosh and I did more of their storyline, I really came to like Tosh a little bit more and more. So with the characters, I think they were overall good. I saw a lot of comments like Balara is just a watered down version of Marrow, and I don't want to always compare a current character to a previous character because I'm like, I can understand that to the point, to a very good point, but at the same time you gotta understand, like, in Dragon Age 2 I didn't like Marrow. I didn't care for Marrow as a character very much in DA2. And I was like, okay, I liked a lot of the characters in DA2. I loved Isabella, I liked Fenris, I hated Anders, I didn't care for Marrow. Obviously I like Varric. So like, it's a give or take, like what characters you do or don't like and how they come across you as a player and as a BioWare fan, like what characters you like and don't like. And I think that's what invokes, emotion from you. What character did you attach to? What character did you gravitate to? What character did you hate? What character did you like? What character did you fall in love with? For instance, I hate Sodus. As from Inquisition, I hate Sodus. He is a snob. I'm like, I hate him. So I was like, okay. But that's just my playthrough. That's my way of identifying with characters. In Dragon Age Origins, there wasn't a character I actually disliked in Origins. Let me see, no, because I like Zevran, I like Shale. Ogren was cool, but he could be very drunk and all of that. Awakening, Anders' Awakening was fine. Anders' Awakening was perfectly fine. I didn't dislike anybody in Awakening. I didn't dislike, well, in DA2 I didn't like Marrow, and I didn't like Anders when he was fused with Justice. That Anders was annoying as hell to me. Inquisition, I didn't like Sodus, and I didn't like Vivian. And in Veilguard, there wasn't really a character I disliked in Veilguard. I actually enjoyed all of the characters. They had a lot. I'll give Veilguard this, is that it seemed like there was a lot more personal quests in Veilguard than in previous games. In Inquisition, we had maybe one quest for each companion, which I kind of thought was a little short. I wanted to kind of do more with the companions in a way. I didn't think there was enough companion quests in Inquisition. In DA2, you got a companion quest every act, which was really cool because several years passed by in DA2. You got, you can do a companion quest each of them, so I think that was cool. Origins, I think there was one for each companion as well, which is, I think the reason you can, I don't compare Origins with Inquisition in that matter is because your companions, you can talk to them whenever you wanted to, and it kind of opened up a lot more dialogue. And I felt like you got to know your companions a lot more in Origins. Inquisition, it's not that you didn't get to know them. I fell in love with Inquisition characters like Sarah, Blackwall, and everything. I love the characters. But for some reason, I felt like I connected a lot more with Origins characters than I did Inquisitions a little bit. I still love the characters in Inquisition. So I can't 100% we didn't connect with them. It's just more of we could have got more Inquisition. In Veilguard, I think they kind of overdid it a little bit, to be honest. Because there was a good stretch of time, I kept doing Tosh quests. I was like, there's a lot of quests for Tosh. There was a lot. So I'm like, maybe I could cut back a little bit on somebody's personal quest. And it took me a while to get Emery's personal quest to pop, which was a little annoying. But for the companions, I think Veilguard did a good job. I like the companions. I think overall they were fine. Now, talk about story. It's very easy to say, because we've waited 10 years for this game, that Veilguard probably most definitely isn't the game a lot of us were expecting. And from the things we got from like when Mike Laidlaw and David Gator were still attached to the project, they had a lot of different plans. Like Gator was the main writer for Dragon Age. He wrote everything up until, you know, when Inquisition came out. He wrote everything from the books from Stone and Throne to the Masked Empire, I believe was his last book for BioWare. He wrote all the stories from Origins to Inquisition. And he even talked about like how he already started writing for, you know, Dragon Age 4. And Mike Laidlaw being a creative director, you know, we've known them to be, and them and like 300 plus people at BioWare already had like, you know, a plot for Dragon Age 4, you know, written out. They started on it. It was codenamed Joplin and all of that. So we knew they had a story that they wanted to tell. They already had that in there. And then, you know, obviously things happened. And, you know, Mike Laidlaw left, David Gator left. A lot of people from the original BioWare team and Dragon Age team left, which, you know, was heartbreaking. I remember like seeing it like all over YouTube from creators that are a fan of BioWare and Dragon Age saying like, oh, this person left, like, you know, and the old team from Dragon Age was just leaving, and it left Dragon Age 4 in kind of a limbo and in somewhat a skeleton crew hands, which is, you know, heartbreaking, which is probably one of the good reasons why it took them 10 years to come out with Veilguard. But given, you know, what, you know, Gator said he was doing, like they had plots to have a lot more choices, a lot more dynamic, you know, feeling for Dragon Age 4. Like they knew, like, for instance, the Inquisition, like when it was like Stroud and Hawk, it was not a problem for any of us to leave Stroud behind because that wasn't a hard choice. Like, I know my Hawk, I'm gonna leave Stroud, as opposed to if it was like if it was Alistair or your Hawk, if it was Logain and your Hawk. But you know, if that made it a little bit of a hard choice, but at the same time, most of us probably had Stroud. I think it was either Stroud or Alistair, depending on, you know, your playthrough from Origins and everything. But I think a lot of us had Stroud, and it wasn't hard for us to leave him behind. I think when it came to, and Gator knew this, and I think Gator had a great way of writing stories and trying to incorporate our previous choices into, you know, those games, which he admitted that, you know, trying to do that was very difficult, and he said that was never really the plan. Like they never really had a, you know, a overall arching plan. Okay, we planned for 3 games. That's not what they did. They planned for Origins. DA2 happened. DA3. It kind of just kept like they kept going into each game, and they tried to include past decisions. So I never really fault them for not always tying in previous choices we made, because from a game development perspective, I know that has to be difficult to do, especially when you start going to different engines, to move over those choices that players have made. And they gave us so many choices to carry over. The Old God Baby was a big choice, and they were able to do that in a great way. Because, you know, Kieran was, you know, could have been a child from your Warden, Alistair, or Logain. So there's 3 potential parents for the old God Baby, and it was like, okay, then, you know, who's Kieran supposed to look like? That was literally a question, a thing Gator put in a comment. He was like, okay, I'm gonna have to just have Kieran look more like Morrigan, which I'm like, that's a good, you know, middle ground to that, because okay, make him look more like Morrigan and such, so he doesn't look more like Alistair. He doesn't look like your male warden that could have been an elf, or, you know, had red hair or this, that, and the other, or Logain. So make him look like Morrigan, which is an easy, you know, segue. And I think when it comes to those choices to carry over, it's very hard for a game development perspective. So I don't fault them a lot when they don't carry open a lot of our old things. And I think because of the Dragon Age Keep and Inquisition, we kind of expected it to happen more and more. And as a fan, like, yes, I want to see more of it. but at the same time, not if it's going to jeopardize story. If they're trying to squeeze in more of like our past choices, I think they should acknowledge, those past stories and everything to carry them over. But I don't always need like that, shoved in there just to like, okay, yeah, let's shove more of like the past in there just to get it in there. But if it doesn't relate to the story, then okay. Inquisition, though, everything from Inquisition, not everything, like major choices from Inquisition should carry into Veilguard. How much that was actually relevant to the story they actually told? Not much. Like, who was divine? Like, that really has no, say when it comes to like us being into Venture and things. That has no real power overall, like in what we're doing in Veilguard. So how they told the story in Veilguard, I think they did it well enough to where they didn't address the past choices we made, because it didn't come up. I think it's because they told a very linear story with Veilguard, which is fine. Like DA2 had a very, for the most part, linear story. There wasn't very many crossovers or callbacks from Origins, other than like Zevran and Nathaniel popping up. I'm trying to think. Alistair popped up in Dragon Age 2. I'm trying to really think. I'm really trying to pull back everything from Dragon Age Origins to Dragon Age 2. And like it wasn't, would I have liked to see more things pop up from our past playthroughs? Yes, of course. And again, because it's been 10 years, you kind of expect a lot of things to come up, because this was like a very climactic ending for BioWare and for Dragon Age, because 10 years in the making, we wanted to see so much. We expected so much. It was just this big game that we want to see. But again, storytelling takes precedent over just trying to shove everything from past games in there. So when it comes to a storytelling perspective, I do applaud BioWare and Dragon Age for what they did with Veilguard. Now, how much that story changed between dropping it to the finished project, that's very hard to say, because we don't have a complete picture of what Veilguard with Dragon Age 4 was supposed to be, or what Laidlaw Gator wrote and planned out. We have ideas, but not a full picture. Now, I do think there were some things they could have addressed, but I think they could Veilguard have actually become 2 games rather than 1? Most definitely, because we're dealing with the Evanurus. We knew that Sodus was planning to tear down the Veil. I think having the old Elven gods come back, I think a great piece. I think that was great, because we had a lot of questions. We had a lot of theories. Like, a lot of us in Dragon Age community have theories. We posted it everywhere, from anywhere from the community boards to on Steam to making YouTube theories and all of that. Right? We all had theories about what the Evanurus meant, and what these lore and text and everything could have gone to. What did they have a connection to, like the old gods, and like all of that lore and all those theories got cleared up and explained and answered for the most part in Veilguard, which I appreciated, because I was like, y'all answered a lot of questions that we had about the Evanurus and what they were like. But at the same time, it is disappointing that we only got 2 of the Evanurus. Like, all the other ones, already are dead by the time Veilguard happens, because their dragons have been killed because of the Blight, or because the Blight's happening the waking world, as opposed to the Evanurus still being in the Black City or the Veil, and like because their old gods or their dragons died, next thing they die. Which I'm like, okay, that makes sense why we don't see the rest of the Evanurus. But we get 2 of them, Gildanane and Elganon, which are the 2 main ones, which I'm like, all right, cool, that's great. But we do want to see more of them, and also we know that they can, for the most part, somewhat survive, because they're very hard to kill. For instance, like Mathal. Mathal has been killed once by Elganon and other Elven gods, once by Solus himself. So she just died twice. Technically 3 times if you killed her in Origins. But there's a part of her soul that's within Morgan now, and one part of her soul that's just, in the fade. Because Soda's placed her there, which, the story between Mythal and Soda's was very interesting. I would have loved to have seen more of what other, bodies Mythal possessed over the centuries. Was she actually a vessel, or was Andraste actually a vessel from Mythal? I have to go back and look at all the codex and everything to see if that was actually confirmed or not. I don't think it was. Unless I missed something, let me know. But there was a lot of lore and theories cleared up in Veilguard, and I think Veilguard did a good job of clearing those things up before moving on. And now let's talk about like the structure of Veilguard as far as a game. It's not as open world as like Inquisition. Inquisition was huge in itself because the hinterlands by itself was so massive. There was so much to do in the hinterlands. It could be like you spent the first like 15 or 30 hours in the hinterlands doing random quests, closing rifts, hurting a Druffalo. There was a lot in the hinterlands to do, and I'm not saying there's not a lot in Veilguard. Like there's a lot. I think the one criticism I have of that is that I didn't care for the map in Veilguard. It was it was odd. Like I didn't care for it. It was like I don't know how to explain. Like I'm thinking of all that the forest and like how you had to keep going back and trail through it. Like there were like fast travel points which I'm fine and okay with. But the map seemed a little overlayered. Like instead of being like one giant piece like Inquisition was, the map was weird. And it looked like it was a linear. And when you walk through it, it doesn't feel that way. Like you can, you go here, you can move through here. Like it felt like, Inquisition where you can just move however you want to throughout Arlathan Forest. But when you look at the map, it was very linear looking, even though it's not how it felt. I think the map system in Veilguard was just a little wonky. I didn't care for that personally. I didn't care for it. But did the world feel just as big as Inquisition? Yes and no. I think there are places that felt the same size, like Arlathan Forest, that felt like the hinterlands. There's obviously places like the Acropolis, which was a lot smaller. It was just a building, but it has several parts to it. I think the biggest letdown in that might be to Venter, where you only got to go around Docktown. You didn't really go to like the main section of Marathis, like where the game starts. You don't really get to explore that part of the area until you go back, into the end of the game. I think that might have been the biggest letdown for me, is that they hyped up to Venter. They showed off so much to Venter and like the trailers and everything, the circle, where the Archon goes and everything. I wanted to see more of that in Marathis. Don't get me wrong, I like Docktown. Docktown reminds me a lot of Darktown from DA2, and it's cool. But I'm like, if you're gonna have me into Venter, like let me go to Marathis. Let me actually see the place that we've all heard about in every part of like lore and history, and just let me experience that part of the Venter. Instead, we kind of got like the Venter that we don't hear about, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy that part. We see like the more like the slums of Venter, and it paints Venter in a different picture, saying like, for instance, we expected Venter to be filled with like magisters, with slaves and those type of things, which okay, great, but that's not the Venter we got. We got more of a very more of a homey, or kind of like a Venter that felt a lot more natural than we expected, a lot more homier than we expected. But I think it would have been a great thing to do if you would have showed us like, hey, this is the Venter that we all saw and think of when we think of the Venter, like magisters running around with slaves and like abusing those slaves and elves and everything. I think that would have been a great way to start it, and have you go back to the Venter in that area, and then Nev takes you to the actual sums. It shows you, hey, Tevinter is more than, you know, what people talk about outside of the North. Tevinter is actually, you know, these people who work on a daily basis, who struggle and, you know, get together as a community and help one another. And like, I think that would have been cool. I think you could have showed us the Tevinter that we all think about, and then the Tevinter that's actually there. I think that would have been a great duality of it, to where it would have made it a lot better to actually kind of see both sides of Tevinter. Like, show me what Tevinter, you know, what people always said about Tevinter. Like, show me that. Like, I don't want to just hear it or, you know, read about it. Show that to me, and then show me Docktown. Like, let that be two parts of it. Like in DA2, you was able to go to like the high part of Kirkwall and the low parts of Kirkwall. You got to see both sides of that. If you gave me that in Veilguard for Tevinter, I would have loved that a lot more. I would like to be able to see both parts of it, and I would have been like, cool, I got to see the part of Tevinter I thought that I would have hated. Like, I thought this would have been a city I would have definitely like trashed the ground, and then you saw me the parts of where actual people live. I'm like, they're no different than like the people for Ferelden and everything that I came to like really like. So that would have been great. You know, it would give us that dichotomy and that duality of Tevinter, which would have been very cool. So, and it also would have been really cool if you, for instance, like my rook was a shadow dragon. It would have been very cool for us to have missions that went to, you know, that upper side of Tevinter, that, you know, that wealthier side of Tevinter, and do missions there. You know, and it would have been really cool to see that. But, you know, I think that's something they could have did better as far as the Tevinter section goes. I think Traveso was handled very well. I like going to Antiva. I would have liked to have seen more of it, but I think what they gave us was really cool. So I think that would have been an opportunity to actually have Zephyrin come back a little bit and do a little bit more there. I would have liked to have seen more of Navarra, obviously. I think it was very cool for us to see Weissup. I would have liked to have been in Weissup before it got destroyed and everything. The Cauldron was cool. I like seeing like the fact that they had a vote for like all of the old gods and their bones. Like there was a lot of good in Veilguard, and it just makes me wish they would have drawn out more of it. I think that's the part that really hits home for me. Like, there are so many things I want to see more of, like the Gloomhowler being the former warden that was, you know, blighting griffins. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, as soon as I saw that they kidnapped the griffins and that they wanted to blight, I was like, I immediately, that's what my mind went to. My mind went to the First Fight novel. I was like, they're bringing that back. They're bringing that in right here. I was like, the fact that I can call back to the novels and feel like, yes, that's a great thing to call back to. And they even brought the character from the novels who found the Griffin eggs, who was trained to be a warden, into the game. I was like, cool, that's great. You brought a character from the books into the game. That's the type of things I want to see, and I love that you did that. That's great. And granted, don't get me wrong, how much they did with the Gloomhowler in that storyline, I think is great. I don't think there was a lot they could have really made out of that, honestly. I mean, the Gloomhowler, like, I think that section by itself was actually as big as it needed to be, because I'm not sure, like, how much could you really have done with the Gloomhowler and the Griffin, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that could have been a whole game by itself. No, not at all. I think what they did for it in Veilguard is perfect. I think major sections like that, the Gloomhowler, the thing with the Necropolis was good. Now, the one thing I do think they could have did more of with is the Fallen Ones. Like, if you know, like, if you watch a lot of my videos or, you know, heard me, like, do a lot of things like the Let's Plays, you know, like, the Fallen Ones, or not the Fallen Ones, I'm sorry, the Forgotten Ones from the Elven history was a big thing. Like, we had nothing on the Forgotten Ones. We had nothing, and then they introduced one of them, only for that storyline to kind of just come and go without any real no real explanation of what the Forgotten Ones were. I'm just like, you gave me a Forgotten One, but I got nothing out of that, and he died so easy. He was why do that? Why give us someone who was said to have fought against the Avenuris and was who considered Sodus to be one of them, and then nothing? Like, nothing came out of that? Sodus doesn't talk about it? We got nothing out of the Forgotten Ones. I'm just like, you can't give us a big part of like lore or someone from the lore, and then no real explanation of it. That kind of is like almost like a slap in the face to me, at least, because that was a big thing for me about the Forgotten Ones. So I don't know if they plan to touch on that later on. I'm not sure if that's supposed to mean more. I guess just one of those things that's kind of held up in the air and kind of confront you like, hey, here's a Forgotten One. We didn't forget about them, and now they're gone. So I'm just like, okay. I kind of wish I wish I was a little bit more of that. I kind of wish it was, a DLC or something that y'all could have touched on after the Evanuras. That would have been really cool. But now it's just this one small part. I'm just like, nah, I still want more of the Forgotten Ones, or, something. I think that's where I think they kind of phoned it in a little bit, because I know that it was a big part of, elven history, and now it's kind of just left to the wayside. The Blights, I'm talking about stories like with the Blights ending with the last two archdemons. I think it's cool that the Blights are gone. A lot of us had a theory like, oh, maybe we get the last two Blights in this last game, which we did, which is cool. So a lot of us were right about that. We got the last two Blights. We fought the two archdemons. We ended the Blights for the most part. There's no more archdemons left, unless the Blight poisons or Blights, just ancient dragons. But now there's no more Blights to be had, supposedly. So that's done. But we still have some Grey Wardens. We're not gonna know if they're ever gonna be another Blight, or we're ever gonna need Wardens again. So that's up in the air. I think that's finally up in the air at that point, because we don't know how the Blight might change or evolve with time, or the Darkspawn themselves will just kind of die out. There is still a question of where the Blight itself came from. We know that Gildanane and the Elven Gods experiment with it and used it. I don't think they particularly they did answer where the Blight came from. So it's thinking about it, I'm like, okay, maybe we don't need more on the Blights. I guess we got all the answers for the Blight. So they wrapped up the Blights storyline pretty nicely on that end. Now, if the Blights change or evolve over time, then that's something different. I guess the other thing is the Titans. Did they wrap that storyline up nicely? Yes and no, that we know of, because we kind of knew that the Evanuras fought the Titans from Inquisition. We knew that there was a big struggle there. You saw at the mountain ranges, like if you do Harding's personal quest, were all Titans, and like how huge they were. Did they wrap it up nicely? Kind of. It gave it a resolution for the most part. The Titans again could have been like their own kind of story, but at the same time the Titans were dead. So it's hard to say yes, it could have been more of that. It's really hard to say like there could have done more with the Titans or not, because the Titans were kind of just reawakening a little bit, and it was like only sporadic ones here and there. So it's very hard to say if the Titan storyline was wrapped up nicely. I think they did a good job bringing the Titans back in and like have Hardy have a connection to them. I think that was great. So, am I happy with the story with the Titans? For the most part, yes. I do kind of think they could have done more with them in some ways, but it's hard to say. Like again, Dwarven history and everything is a little bit my weaker side of Dragon Age lore. So, I'll probably talk about the Titans again in a different video about what could have been done more with them. But overall, with Harding and the Titan lore that we did get, I thought was great. I thought how it tied back into the Evanuras and everything was good for the most part. Now, the overall thing with Sodus and how his ending goes, I think it's a great ending. The fact that it was revealed that the elves were, or the Evanuras were once spirits that took, mortal form was interesting. I think that was a real twist, a real shock to like a lot of us as fans and lore buffs, which was very cool. I think, okay, that's very interesting that the elves were once spirits, right? At least the old elves were. But then then it raises the question more and more so about, okay, where did the humans come from? Where did Canary come from? Like dwarves are always there in Thedas that we know of, and it's more of a question like, were they anywhere else in the world? So the question that we as fans now have is like, okay, is there going to be a DA5? And if you have the secret ending and everything, then, you know, it's kind of more of like, there's very good potential for DA5 because now there's these characters and backgrounders apparently been working the scenes behind so much of it. Like the biggest thing was, if you got the 3 orbs, you got the secret ending and everything, you saw that apparently like they were manipulating Loghain to, you know, abandon Ostagar and leave Caden to die, and they played actually DA2 and all of these, like they had their hands in plots. So I'm just like, okay, who are these, you know, what are these beings, who are they, like, and what's their end game? So we have a bigger question now, because even there, like, the Evanurus are gone. So did they exist before the Evanurus? You know, who are they? We have bigger questions now about who are these beings and what are their plot? Are they the ones, you know, from, you know, a different continent that, you know, drove out the Canary? Because now we know that the Canary, for the most part, it seems like the Canary lost whatever battle they were fighting across the seas that had them come to Thedas. Because, you know, if you do Tasha's storyline, Tasha is a fire breather, and like they sent a tablet and everything saying, if you get in this, then we lost that fight. That fight's done. Be aware the storm is coming. And now it's more about, you know, is it about, you know, those across the sea? I can't remember exactly what the name of it is. If you go watch Cole from the Kingdom, he's done a good, I think he's done a good few videos about, you know, that piece of lore, and that's very unknown. And now it's more about, okay, what are these unknown, you know, unknown beings that had their hands and everything? How do they relate to the Evanurus? If they relate at all, were they here before the Evanurus? Were they here before the Titans? Did they come from across the sea? What are they plotting, and what is their end game? So now we as DA fans have a lot more things, not more questions at the very end, but we have no real lore on it. And I think that's where, you know, you can take Dragon Age into a new direction and be like, well, now we have this, we don't have to worry about too much of the past, we don't have to focus too much on that. Now we can build up this whole new experience for you guys. And I think as Dragon Age fans, if you do lore and theories and everything, I think that's what's exciting about it, to see what they do with next. And now that we kind of have a cap on everything, now we can kind of like close out a lot of that old lore, a lot of those old theories, and kind of come up with like, okay, what's next for Dragon Age? And I think that's very exciting. At the same time, very scary, because it's like, well, you know, what does that mean for the series going forward? And if you didn't enjoy Veilguard, I think it's a little harder to get, you know, excited about it, and it's a little harder to kind of like look forward to, you know, the next game in that series, because it didn't live up to your expectations. But as a fan of Dragon Age, a fan of BioWare, and I've been a fan of BioWare since like, I think 2011 or so. I love the storytelling they've done. I think what they did, for instance, like the plot twist with Varric. And again, spoilers if you've gotten this far and didn't hear this first spoiler warning. This is a huge spoiler warning for the game. Is that Varric being dead the entire time, you know, after the prologue. And I called that, like, I was like, I can't remember, I think it was like episode like 4 or 5 into my playthrough, and for some reason something was like, I literally was like, what if Varric's been dead this whole time, you know, and so just killed him? I said that in somewhat of a joking manner, only for that to be true. And that, like, when I found out Varric was dead, that broke my heart. Like, it hurt me so goddamn much that Varric ended up dead. I was like, I couldn't believe they took that plunge and killed Varric. Like, when I first saw the trailer, like, BioWare showed the trailer of you know, Bianca like Soda's breaking Bianca, and my first thought was like, oh my god, they're gonna kill Varric. And like, you know, then you have that sigh of relief. Okay, Varric is okay. You get to the prologue. Oh my god, he stabbed Varric. And then you're like, okay, Varric is okay. Only to realize, oh, Sodus has been manipulating you the entire time to think Varric has been alive. And then I'm like, Sodus, you son of a bitch. I didn't like you before. I definitely want to kill you now. It evokes so much emotion right then and there of me like wanting to kill Sodus because you use Varric against us to manipulate us. I'm just like, and that's a great storytelling in a way, because like it makes you rethink everything that you saw with Varric in like cutscenes with him. Like the first moment, like for instance, like okay, right after the prologue, you're in the Fade with Sodus, and the reason I can say this now is because I kind of recently just saw the prologue with one of my new characters. Is that you your rook says to Sodus, and I think quote is like, and now Varric's hurt, and Sodus says Varric is, and he pauses, he stops, and he's really thinking about that. And he's like, this person doesn't, they don't know Varric's dead. And he thinks about that for a split second. He's like, I can use that. I can use Varric to manipulate them into, you know, working for me and all this and get more information about Rook. So he uses the fact that you are attached to Varric and that you don't know that Varric is dead to use that to manipulate you and have you think Varric is alive this entire time. So Sodus tricks you. Like he's the god of tricks, and it plays right into his hand, like it plays right into who Sodus is, and you see how manipulative and like of a bastard Sodus can be with that. And I think that's such a good way to invoke us to like really make us hate Sodus and make us mourn, because now we know the entire time since after the prologue, a character that we've had since DA2, who's been, you know, in the comics, in the books and everything, is now dead because of Sodus. And like, as soon as I found that out, as soon as I saw that, my heart broke. Like, I was like, oh my, they killed Varric. And it broke my heart. And this is like coming off the end of, in my playthrough, of Harding dying, of me thinking Balara's dead. I'm just like, oh my, like they captured so much emotion from me within like that last, like, this happened within like an hour or two of like, Harding died, Balara's gone, Varric is actually dead. Like, it immediately like cranked up to 12 on my emotions, because they killed so many characters, or confirmed so many characters were dead in a span of like an hour. I'm just like, you have got to be shitting me, right? And it's so heartbreaking to do that. But at the same time, like, that's good character writing or good story writing when you can have me care about. Granted, Varric is a very easy one, because you know you've cared about Varric from Dragon Age 2 to Dragon Age Inquisition and everything, because you've spent time with Varric. He was a companion with you for 2 games. You know, you got to be with him and heard his voice so many times. So Varric was an easy one to kind of, you know, get you. Harding was a fan favorite from Inquisition. People wanted to romance Harding and everything, so Harding was a fan favorite. So it was very easy to invoke that thing right there to like have you care about Harding. But I think between the choice between Harding and Davrin was what got people in. Was worse was that you didn't know that they were gonna die. Like when you have that choice between, okay, send Harding or Davrin out to scout, and you know, when a confrontation would get a name, you didn't know that they were gonna die. Like, and it came out of nowhere and just happened. And I was like, okay, no, she got stabbed once, twice, she can survive that. And then nope, stab, falls, and that's it. So it's very emotionally heart-wrenching. And then the other one before that, it's between Nev and Balara, which again, you don't know what's going to happen. And to be honest with you, in my playthrough, I'm romancing Nev, right? So I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, okay, like they have to go fix fix one of these ancient magic devices or whatever that, you know, prevent us from passing through, and you have to choose between Nev or Balara to go fix it. I'm just like, well, Balara's been fixing like all of our elven artifacts and everything. She's also a mage. I'm just like, and for some reason I chose Balara because she said she wants to do it safely so nothing happens. I'm just like, that makes sense. I'm gonna send Balara. And like Nev disagreed with me. I was like, why did you disagree with that, Nev? Like, I'm gonna send Balara. I didn't think anything of it. Balara went in there, fixed it. I'm like, all right, cool. Thanks, Balara. Got snatched by Elganon. I'm like, what the fuck? And Balara's gone. I'm thinking she's dead. I'm like, oh shit, I killed. And I like Balara. Like, honestly, Balara and Nev like together so much. Like, throughout the entire game, like they're talking to each other a lot. And like Nev calls Balara Belle. I'm like, they have a sweet friendship. I love Balara because she's like so spunky, but she has, I came to really like Balara a lot. I was like, I'm gonna romance Balara on my next playthrough. Again, I have not watched anybody's playthrough of Veilguard. I have not seen anything. I'm going into this blind because I'm like, I want my playthrough to be completely blind. And then Balara's like, I'm thinking Balara's dead. She got snatched. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, that could have been Nev. But I'm like, it's Balara. I'm like, Balara in my head from our rook, because you know you fantasize how your characters are. I'm like, Balara's like a little sister, like the best friend, right? I'm like, I love Balara. Only for like, oh god, I just killed Balara. I hate this. I got Balara killed. Next thing you know, Harding dies, and next thing you know, I figure out that Varric has been dead the entire time. Like, yo, I just killed 3 amazing characters right off the bat, and I hated that. I hated that so damn much. Until you find out later on, Balara's alive. She's just blighted. Okay, she's blighted. That's not, and she's like blighted to hell. Like, she has black eyes and everything. Like, Balara's, she's screwed. Like, if she lives for a while, it's not gonna be a good life. She's gonna suffer. I'm like, this sucks. Okay, it wasn't good. But that just shows you like how invested I became in the story, how immediate, like they said, oh, we saw your reaction with Strahd and Hawk and leaving one of them in the fade, and how that really impacting your body. We're gonna make this hurt you. We're gonna make this make you feel something. And in the span of that 1 to 2 hours, I'm going that long because, you know, depending on how you play, they made you cry and weep and feel anger about everything, right? From Balara and Nev being able to get snatched and you thinking they're dead, to being blighted to hell, to Davrin and Harding actually like dying, and then you find out Varric is dead. So it's like 3 characters right there that you know or have been partnered with for like past companions, current companions that you've come to like, dead or gone. Balara or Nev, depending on your choice, could still be alive, but they're blighted. And it's just heart-wrenching for that. And then, so you get to the end of the game. I'm going on a rant because I'm trying to tell you like my general thoughts and my feelings to Veilguard. You get to the end of the game, you have the big thing, which if you've, you know, leveled up all your companions, you got them to their, you've done all that personal quests, you got them to their Veilguard champion status, whatever. I didn't realize this because I just did it because I like completing everything. I was like, I'm doing a completionist run of this game, right? My first playthrough, I want to make sure I do like the best playthrough I could get. So again, I'm doing all this without looking anything up. I'm literally trying. So I'll go through the game. It comes like the giant fight in Minrathis, and you know you sending your companions out to like, hey, go with this group to do this to this, and like, okay, you like distributing them to like various factions and everything. So I'm like, okay, you know, and my companions, they all live. Like, they're all fine. The factions are all good because I leveled them up to the max. I leveled all the factions up to the max, thinking, okay, I'm doing all of this. I did not know the factions was going to be in this last fight. I did not know that all the companions would have to go with the factions to be in this last fight to take down giants and everything. And, like, fight the Venatori and fight, like, the Autom. And I was like, okay, didn't know all you guys were going to show up. I didn't know the Warrens, the Crows, the Veil Jumpers, the Shadow Dragons, the Morn Watchers. I didn't know all of y'all were going to show up. That was surprising. Which, if you don't level them up, because I looked this up later and I saw like in playthroughs later on, if you don't do that, oh, certain people from the Veil Jumpers could die, from the Morn Watchers could die, from the Great Warrens could die. Like, some people can just straight up die because you didn't level up the factions. Also, if you didn't get the champion status for your for your companions, they can die. I was like, are you shitting me? You tell me if I didn't do this and I wasn't a completionist freak, my companions would have died in that final fight? The shit. And also, if you apparently send them to the wrong faction, like if you can choose to send them to like different factions or help different factions in that last fight. If you don't put them with a comparable squad, they can die. I'm like, okay, my dumbass just got lucky. Because I didn't know that. On top of that, so at the very last thing, when you do like the whole goodbyes to your companions, like the last like kind of, you know, farewells and talking to them and everything, Morrigan is going to ask you, hey, send one of your companions with us to hold back while you go confront Elganon. So whoever got blighted, Nev or Balara, they come with you regardless. Like they immediately they go with you regardless. Like they're not even a companion option. So you have like they're not someone you can choose to go with the Morrigan. So I sent Tosh because I'm just like, okay, I need to send somebody, and like really they will tell you send somebody who's good on the front line. Like they literally tell you that. I'm just like, okay, I'll send Tosh. Tosh is like a good frontline fighter. Cool. So I did that, and Tosh survived. Like she killed some Tom who was coming at the Morrigan. I'm like, all right, Tosh survived. Cool. I'm like, didn't think anything of it. So I was like, all right. I went back and I saw somebody's playthrough, and they sent Emmerich. Emmerich got killed. Same scenario, everything. Like a Tom warrior is coming at the Morrigan. Emmerich picks up a staff or something to try to block it or kill that Tom. Gets killed. I'm just like, are you shit? You could literally get them killed. Doesn't matter if they got their their championship or not. As a Veilguard, as a Veil jumper, they can be killed right then and there because you sent the wrong person to protect Morrigan. I'm just like, are you shitting me? There's another companion that can die right there. So quite literally, in this playthrough, so many companions die. All of them can die. I learned later on in the final fight against Elganon, the two companions you take with you to fight Elganon, not even Elganon. Actually, yes, the one who gets blighted, either Balara or Nev, they will sit in like some throne and take over the blight and everything. And I don't exactly know how because I haven't really looked into this much and I haven't done the second playthrough completely yet. Either because of the choice you make with Solus, or considering if they're not, a champion status or something like prevents it, they can die right then and there once they, take over the throne Elganon was sitting in, and they can just die. Like, okay, that's that character now dead. That got snatched by Elganon before. Okay, now Nev Balara is officially dead. The companions you take with you to fight Elganon at the very end, where you confront Solus, depending on the choice you make with that one, they can die. So that's two more companions dead. So you can quite literally kill all of your companions, including you can also kill your rook. So for the first time since Origins, your protagonist can die by trying to lure Solus into the Fade and trapping him as a barrier between the waking world and the Fade. So, because he's now the life source of the Veil. So you can quite literally kill everyone in the Veil Jumpers. And I saw a playthrough with this. Like I think I saw like someone's compilation of every companion being killed. And I'm just like, what the fuck? You can kill all of them? My dumbass got so lucky because I wanted to do a completionist playthrough of this game. I got everybody to their Veilguard status, like champion status. I somehow sent everybody with factions. I didn't get them killed and this and that. I was like, my dumbass is so lucky that no one died other than the people that was guaranteed to die, like Harding / Davrin or Balaran, Nev getting like kidnapped, which, by the way, Balara was the one who got snatched up and blighted. But because she had a Veil Jumper status or something, one of the choices I made, she ends up being cured of the blight at the very end. I was like, okay, you're just now cured, which I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it. Balara ends up being alive. Cool. But like, it's so, it's such a mind fuck to me that those choices could be made, and that's the reaction you could have. Like, regardless of what you say, the ending of Veilguard is amazing. Because those choices, talking about impact, the choices you make at the end, where anyone could have died. Because, okay, I don't care for Balara. I don't care to do her personal quest. Guess what? She's gonna be dead. Oh, you just didn't find time to do Lucanus' personal quest? Dead. The hell? You know, like, you can literally get your companions killed because you didn't take time enough to invest in their personal matters. And that's why there's like so much of it. So I'm just like, they made those things matter. Those choices matter at the very end because they are dead. And I think that's beautiful. I think the fact that you can kill your companions in such a way and kill even your own rook is so mind-boggling to me, because it's like, you either get lucky or you purposely killed some people or whatever. I'm just like, that's interesting. I'm like, I commend Veilguard for that, for killing off companions and the protagonists in that way. I'm just like, that's so badass. But my overall thoughts of Veilguard is, I enjoy the game. I enjoy the gameplay. I enjoy playing as a warrior. I love the shield throw because it felt like Captain America. I enjoyed playing as a rogue because I'm like, it was fast, it was furious. I like the fact that I can just go to a bow and switch between those in a snap. The mage, I played a little bit. I'm a little more comfortable with a mage because I don't play mages, but even that gameplay, the gameplay for Dragon Age Veilguard feels fluid. I like it. I do miss the tactics of it. I do wish I could do tactics and put my companions, hey, attack the long range people first, then do this. You know, hey, I need a warrior to use, you know, war cry to attract, you know, enemies towards them. I missed that I could have 4 people in a party rather than just 3. I don't know why that was a thing. There was some small things here and there. I'm just like, why did y'all do this? Why did y'all take a main mechanic like, you know, the 4 companions away? That's kind of interesting. But I'm just like, I don't know why you did that. But, you know, okay. I don't understand why they took away the fact that I could switch between my companions. I don't understand why y'all limited the health potions. There was some small game mechanics that I'm just like, that's a little weird for y'all to change in the fourth installment of this series. Like, y'all understand y'all want to keep it fresh, but like, keep some core mechanics. Maybe keep the tactics thing that y'all had in Inquisition, because I actually enjoyed the tactics. I want y'all to bring the tactics back from Origins, so I could choose where my companions aim at first at certain things. Like, hey, if you see a range character, attack this range character, or if this happens, do this. I want that mechanic back. I kind of hope, I don't understand why I take the mechanic away from where I can control my companions, because I'm like, once my rook dies, I'm dead. I'm just like, I don't know why y'all did that. I don't understand why y'all limited the health potions to 4, or 3 rather. Like, they were limited in Inquisition too, but for some reason it felt more manageable in Inquisition. I don't know why. It felt more manageable. Here, I felt like, what the hell? I'm not really understanding what the hell is happening with the health potions. It was, for some reason, it felt weirder in Veilguard. So I think the health potion mechanic is a little weird. But that's very, those are gameplay mechanics I think they need to like go back to and be like, okay, maybe we need to change this back. Give them back the tactics, let them switch between companions. Those are like small things, like they all changed things that were kind of core things to Dragon Age for the most part. Didn't understand why they changed them. I guess to make you feel more invested in Rook and make you really think about your characters. I'm not really sure. I can't say what the thought process was in changing those, you know, core mechanics of Dragon Age. Did it dilute my gameplay at all? Not really. I like I said, I enjoy Veilguard. I love how the game plays as far as like how fluid it is. I enjoy traveling between the areas, like going to the crossroads, Docktown. Like I said, some of those areas could have been a little bit more rounded, like give me more adventure. Overall, I think Veilguard is a good game. I think if you're a Dragon Age fan, the lore by itself will probably be what actually draws you more into it. Is the game exactly what we expected it to be? No. Mainly because we had 10 years to think of like what should be included, what they should be doing, what we kind of want them to do now. And it took them 10 years to give us Veilguard. And with 10 years of hype and expectations and just all of that build up, it's very hard to say that they lived up to those expectations. Especially, you know, with the massive thing that, you know, Inquisition was. And I think Veilguard never would have actually lived up to those expectations because, again, 10 years of build up, that's gonna be a hard mountain to climb. And right now, my hope is that don't take another 10 years to put out another Dragon Age. You know, what it was from 2009 to 2011, y'all had DA2. And then I think Awakening came out in 2010. So you had about a year, a little less than a year for Dragon Age Origins to Dragon Age Awakening. You had about a year from Awakening to DA2, 2 years from Origins to DA2. And then it was 3 years from DA2 to Inquisition because it was 2011 and 2014 Inquisition came out. And then I think Trespasser came out I think Trespasser came out 2014 as well. So 2014, 2015. So you had, let's say, within a year, the Trespasser DLC came out. But then it took 10 years for, you know, from Inquisition from Trespasser to Veilguard. BioWare, I love you guys. I think you guys overall are great storytellers. I think you do great when it comes to your writing companions and characters. But when it comes down to how long between those games, I think that's really what deflated and hurt a lot of people when came playing Veilguard, is that a 10-year wait, there was such an expectation that was going to be hard to live up to. And if it was like 2-3 years between the games, I don't think it would have been that hard of a sell. I don't think people would have been as hurt by it. I can't really say for sure about that, because again, I'm basing this off of my opinion, right? I'm basing this off of what I think of Dragon Age and what my opinions of it and how I enjoy the games. And I love BioWare. I love Dragon Age. I enjoy Veilguard. Is it my favorite game of the series? No, I think Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age Inquisition will probably still be my favorite of the series. DA2 and Veilguard, I will probably pick Veilguard over DA2. That's only because DA2 had a very bad thing about, you know, reoccurring areas that just kept, you know, reusing areas and stuff. That's probably the most annoying thing about DA2. Veilguard's fun to play, hands down. I think it has the best fighting mechanics. I think their areas are great. I think the companions are good. I think they kept a core of what that means for me as a BioWare and a Dragon Age fan. To me, I think they still did a great job of that, even though it's not the core people who, you know, brought Dragon Age to life, like Gator, Laylaw, Mike Dara. Those people have left BioWare, unfortunately, and you know, we have a lot of new writers and creative directors and a lot more people, you know, in charge of Dragon Age now. So like the team that brought us Dragon Age Origins to Dragon Age Inquisition are no longer there. Like a lot of those people, like 300 plus, like a lot of that team is gone. So to this new BioWare and Dragon Age team, I want to say y'all did a good job. Y'all did a great job. I personally enjoy Veilguard. I know y'all getting a lot of slack for it. And please take, you know, all that criticism and, you know, don't let it like motivate you to, you know, make the next installment even better. But at the same time, understand like there are people like myself who do enjoy Veilguard because of the lore, because of the gameplay, because of the things you guys did with this game. But at the same time, the people who criticize the game, who didn't like the game because of certain mechanics that y'all didn't carry over from Inquisition and everything, take those considerations as well, because those are valid, you know, criticisms to take. And make the next installment, you know, better. You're not going to please everybody. And that's something we all have to understand. And at the same time, for all those who don't like Veilguard, don't criticize the people who do enjoy it, because their enjoyment is just them who enjoy the game. It could be the fact that, yes, they're probably loyal to Dragon Age, but at the same time, if people genuinely like playing a game, like, don't criticize the people for liking it. Like, a game is for those to enjoy it. Like, let them enjoy the game. Like, it's the same thing for like a movie or TV show. If somebody likes a show or a movie or anything, then great, let them like it. That's their cup of tea. If it's not yours, it's not yours. You can criticize all you can hate it. You can never play Veilguard again. That's completely understandable. I will never tell you, hey, you're wrong. I'm like, okay, no, that's your opinion. I can respect that. Cool. But if I enjoy it, like, let me enjoy the game. Like, I'm gonna play it, however many times I can play it, and like, I'm gonna enjoy it for what it is. But if you don't enjoy it, like, you're valid in your opinion as well, and I'm never going to discredit you for that. But never criticize somebody for enjoying something because it gives them pleasure or it gives them some kind of freedom to enjoy the game however they want to. So for that, I want to say everybody who enjoyed Veilguard, who criticized Veilguard, who disliked Veilguard, who did like Veilguard, your opinions are valid. How you feel about the game is valid, and that's just it. It's your opinion. Like, we all have them. We all have to respect that. So as a community, Dragon Age community, like, y'all have been amazing. Like, since I've joined this, the Dragon Age community has been very great about encompassing everybody and making everybody feel included. So I want to make sure that Veilguard doesn't, separate the community in that way. So please continue to lift each other up and like support each other and like be able to have like those friendly disputes about things Veilguard did do right or didn't do right, and just be kind to one another about it. Like, don't rip each other's head off and say, oh, you're crazy for liking the game or this, that, and the other. Like, no, that somebody liked the game. It was the same thing when DA2 came out. People didn't like it or people did like it. Like, it's just a matter of perspective and taste. Like, you're valid in your opinion. So please don't destroy each other in the comments or aren't in the community boards about Veilguard. Like, let somebody enjoy their game. Let somebody just play their game and do what they love, because that's what, brought us into Dragon Age or brought us in that community to kind of share our opinions and like love of the lore and things like that. So let that community still grow and be, community that for us to feel comfortable in and feel that we can come and talk to each other in. So please, I ask that everybody who's in the Dragon Age community or in our community or in a gaming community of any sort, to let people express those, feelings of, disappointment or happiness about it. So like, let them do that. So I ask that you guys, just be accepting of that, respect each other and have friendly disputes and talk to each other with kindness and respect. So, and that's really all I really have to say. Like, it's not gonna be for everybody. And I just hope that, the next game does come out. I hope that we do get a Dragon Age 5. I hope that there's still more lore to talk about. Hope there's still more theories coming out there. I want to see what everybody in the community has to say about what could potentially happen. I want to see Dragon Age, YouTubers make their videos and do all these things. I want to see that community continue to be as strong as it has been over 10 years and over 10 plus years of like waiting for, Dragon Age 4 to come out. So I hope it continues to still be that strong community. So, I mean, that's just all I really want to kind of convey into this is that, regardless if you enjoy Veilguard or you dislike Veilguard, understand, like, there are people who worked on it that, feel a certain way, and like, you can have your criticisms. I'm not saying don't criticize it, but at the same time, like, just be aware and be respectful of the fact that there are people who worked on it and they felt a certain way about their project. And there are people in the community who felt a certain way about the game. That you can say your criticism, but you can say it in a respectful manner to where you're voicing constructive criticism and not just spewing hatred or anything. So that's all I really want to very much convey here. It's like, hey, just be respectful. If you don't like it, great. That's perfectly fine. If you do like it, great. That's perfectly fine. Just, be supportive. At the end of the day, man, like, this is all we can actually do. We get a game. It's going to be it's going to either succeed or fail. And, the devs, the creators, the writers, the programmers, those game developers, they all have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what didn't work, what did work, what didn't work, and how do we make the next installment better? And guys, like, I really hope there's a DA5. I love this game. It saved. I've talked about this before, like how Dragon Age has saved me when I dealt with depression. It's still one of those games I go back to help me. So I do hope there's a DA5. I don't think this is the end of the series. I really hope it's not. And I really would hate that if Veilguard is the last game, it's because, people didn't receive it well. It's because people just became, spewing hatred over it, and Bioware didn't want to make it. So I really hope that that's not the reason we don't get a DA5. Now, if DA5 doesn't happen because, a company just saying, okay, we don't want to invest in it, that's something completely different. But that's not kill a series because of, a community backlash of disagreement. So all I gotta say though is like continue to support each other, continue to be a great community. Let's still have like Dragon Age Day, like where everybody gets on Twitch and sees things. People still build communities, have those talks and everything. I would still love to get on I would still love to do more collaborations with like Cole from the Kingdom. I would love to continue to do collaborations with so many other DA YouTubers. Like I don't expect this channel to blow up. I really don't. I post these videos because Dragon Age means that much to me, and that's what it is. So that's really all I have to say, guys. I want to thank you very much for listening, for watching, and continue to let me know what you think about Dragon Age as a whole, as Bioware as a whole, or anything you want to talk about. If you want to come and vent here on the comments, that's cool. But again, just be respectful. But guys, I really want to thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one. Venerel and Unsell. Little Wolfpack.